Welcome in, Commanders family, to the Next Man Up podcast. We talk to your favorite Commanders players. We talk to some legends. We even talk to some big-time Commanders fans. And there's not so much X's and O's. It's about the men behind the helmet. And this week we got a fun one. We got the big man in the middle, Daron Payne, talking all things Week 1 matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then we get a national perspective. Mike Tirico joins the show to talk about the offseason he's seen from the Washington Commanders. And then we had to have the captain aboard. Yes, that's right. Big London Fletcher joins the show to get y'all hype and to set the tone. That's all on Next Man Up.
Scratch is so nice, gotta hear it twice. In the place to be, as y'all can see.
What's good, Commanders family, and welcome into the Next Man Up podcast. Our Next Man Up right now is our big man in the middle, Daron Payne. Brother, how you doing, man? Yeah, man, good to see you, bro. We're happy to have you, man. And it's crazy because I've talked to Jonathan, I've talked to Bobby, I've talked to everybody on this defense. But me and you, we have only rapped about your car.
Yeah.
We haven't got to talk about all that, man. So let's get right into it because you know, Next Man Up, we like talking about the man behind the helmet. So first things first, you're going into year 7. What was different about this offseason for you?
I mean, off season for me is kind of the same. Like I'll just be training hard, getting after it. The only difference I had a little girl in May, so we welcomed her in and just been taking care of her. But I just been training.
Yeah. What has being a father done for you, man? Like, 'cause I know me, when I became a dad, everything changed. You know, I stopped being able to be selfish, and it was like, okay, I have something to work for, I have something to live for. Is that what happened with you?
I definitely I just enjoy just being able to come home and see her and just love on her and watch her grow up and change and just grow. So it's gonna be a fun experience and a lot of sleepless nights, you know. But it's cool. No, I like it.
You think she gonna be a daddy's girl?
Oh yeah, well, she love her mama. I don't know, but she might.
So they say about daughters is that, like, you know, they're the ones that's for the dads. You know, I got a son and he's all about his mama. So I'm like, man, if one day I have a girl, man, hopefully she all about her dad, man. So congratulations on that, man. That's a big deal. And I mean, it's not just you having a daughter, right? Like, you could just tell there's an energy about you that's just a little different, man. And smile on your face is just a little different. What about this season is so different for you?
I just feel like we got a bunch going on for the team. Like, we got a good coaches. Like, they all about just bettering us and finding ways for us to be better, like players, and they want us to like be at our top game. Like they give us time to recover and just ask us like what we think we can get better at, and just whatever we need to be a better football player on Sundays, they try to help us. So I feel like it's good for us.
And not every guy has been here as long as you, right? You're really an elder statesman here. You've been here for a while, and you've seen the energy shift. A lot of that has to be because of what Dan Quinn has brought to this, right?
Yeah, no, the coaching staff and all of the extra things that they brought in, man, I feel like it's going to be good for us. Like, all the coaches, it's kind of like they all are the same. Like, they all are, like, on 10 every day. Like, they bring the energy every day, so it's cool to see.
And then Joe Witt Jr., a guy that I've seen, he's always on 10. Like, he be cool in the halls, he be chilling, but man, when he's on that field, it's a whole nother thing. How excited are you to play under a defense ran by a guy like Joe Witt Jr., who has brought so much to the NFL?
Man, he give us the ability just to go out there and play with confidence and just get after people, man. Like, he preaches just running after the ball, so like the intensity to the ball and like it's always like they always say it's 2 plays, like the initial like get off and then the play after the actual play going. So it's like we get into the ball and trying to just create plays after the play. So
trying to just do things the right way. Now, you mentioned all the other things going on. That is also Daryl Tapp, Sharif Floyd, guys that have done it. Yep, RK, right? Kerrigan, guys that have done it and excelled at a high level. How much benefit is that giving you and you guys now that you have these guys that have done it before?
So it's cool, man. Just like I play with RK, so he knows how I like to rush, and he knows the things I like to do. So like, just like this week, we got something going in. Like he'll look at the lineman, and then he know how I rush. He'll be like, "Oh, I think you'll be good doing this week," or "You probably can get after this guy doing this week." So it's like it's cool to see, and you know, he has so much success in his league, so it's like he can. You want to kind of just get all the information you can out of him, and hopefully it helps you.
And you're a guy that's giving out a lot of information now because you've also been the mentee where you have a Jonathan Allen, you're here, you're learning from a guy like that. But then you have a Johnny Newton who is not only a rookie, but he's also coming off of an injury. He's trying to catch back up.
Yeah.
How have you been able to help a guy like Johnny get acclimated to the defense y'all running?
I talked to him a little bit. It's hard because, he's not around right now because of the injury and stuff. But, like, when he be working in and stuff, he always listening and trying to just ask questions. But once he get back to rotating in with us, I know he'll probably just be wondering about how, like, little technique things and stuff.
And year 7, it sounds like a lot. But, bro, clearly you're still a very young man. You're still in your prime. So how are you getting better? How have you felt like you've gotten better?
I feel like just year 7 is all about, like, taking care of your body and being fresh on game days and just all the little stuff outside of suiting up on Sundays, like training and recovery. Like, I just I hit it hard on recoveries after I leave here, like 6 to 9 p.m. So
wow.
it's like it never stops, man. But I feel like it helps me become better. Like, just like I said with RK, man, I learned stuff from him that I feel like I used in my game, man. I used to watch him come in and roll out and stretch and train hard every day, and it's like, shoot, he almost got 100 sacks.
Yeah. Is it weird though, like now that you're that role model, because people are watching you now? Is that something that's really sit on you yet, or you just still feel like you that young man just trying to get it?
I don't know. I still be thinking I'm still like a rookie in the league. Almost, well, not a rookie, but I still be feeling like I'm a young guy in the league. But I know I can see, like, when we get new guys in, like they be watching me and watching my routine, how I train and stuff. So you definitely want to be on your, like, best, so you can give a good example to those guys.
Mm-hmm. And you got week 1 coming up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man, what is the expectation for you and this defense when y'all go face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for week 1?
Shoot, run and hit. That's what we go do on Sunday, man. We go get out there and try to execute the game plan. But shoot, finna go run and hit something.
Last question. Last time you was on Next Man Up, I asked you who's the best interior duo in the NFL. You said DP and JA. Who is the best interior duo in the NFL today?
We go put something on tape this year, man. I'm excited. It's gonna be a good year.
And we can't wait to see you, man. Daron, thank you so much for your time, bro. We know you're a busy man, and can't wait to see you ball out in Tampa, brother. Appreciate you. Now, Commanders family, for our Next Man Up, I feel like we need to get a national perspective. You might have seen him on the Olympics. You might have heard him on NBC's biggest sports shows, including Sunday Night Football, even golf. Emmy winner, Mr. Mike Tirico. How you doing, Mike?
Brian, good to be with you. Happy football season.
Oh, man, thank you so much. There's no better time than football season, but you might feel differently because you were just in Paris. You were in Paris covering the Olympics. First of all, congratulations. You killed it, as you always do. Talk to us about that experience.
Yeah, our team killed it. It was a wonderful experience to share in that with our entire group. It was really exciting, I think, to see the Olympics resonate with American viewers again. For a lot of people of a certain age who grew up on the Olympics and watching the Olympics, it had lost a little bit of luster for a variety of reasons. Could be because the last 2 were COVID, no fans. Really haven't had a city that has been one of those telegenic, magical cities since London. Rio could have been, but Zika virus, other things kind of took a little bit of the luster from Rio. But Paris was a star. Team USA was a star. We had, everybody from Martha Stewart to Kelly Clarkson and Snoop Dogg and Jimmy Fallon hanging out with us. And I think you just see the broad swath of America that loves being around the Olympics. And it was nice to see our country unified around something for the first time in quite some time.
Well, Mike, I have no doubt you being involved in LA will make it just as good as Paris, man. It was great hearing you do the broadcast. You're so great at this. And it's about football, though, now. You hit the ground running.
Yes.
You hit the ground running as soon as you got back from the Olympics. It was football time. I actually just saw you on the field at Commanders Field, which is now Northwest Stadium. You were there doing our final preseason game against the New England Patriots. You were on the field. You caught the vibes. You felt the environment. And you've been around a long time. What was different about this time being back in the DMV?
Yeah, 2 weeks and the stadium name changed already, right? It happened
Things
fast.
change fast here.
It does. I like this team a lot. Every new team has a new energy, a new juice. The building is excited for a variety of reasons. But Dan Quinn got an Atlanta franchise to the Super Bowl, right? We all know how that ended up. But Dan built a really good locker room and good team. And in Dallas, you watch his defense play the last 3 years, you saw the same thing. Very together group, very connected group. And those traits we assumed would carry over to this team, and they have. And then I think the biggest part is, one, you found a quarterback. We don't know until the regular season starts, but Jaden looks outstanding in every aspect of leadership and play and all that stuff. Terry McLaurin, a good receiver, added to a good running back in Robinson with Eckler. Have an offensive line. We've brought in some experienced guys to steady, especially a center who knows the division, and Biotis, who can help the young quarterback with all the stuff that you do at the line of scrimmage. And the defense, Dan Quinn knows his defense and brought in a lot of veterans and some rookies like Mike Sainristil is going to, I think, be terrific in that nickel position or corner, period, for this Washington team. And all of a sudden you look up and you say, this team's pretty good. I think this team really has all the ingredients to surprise people. I mean, the prediction game is silly. You'd have really no idea who's going to stay healthy. But if I look at Washington right now and their team, I would say this is a team that can certainly be 500. And if you're in that neighborhood, that means you're a game or two away from being in the playoff mix. And that would not be out of the question from what I see with this team going into this year.
Mike, I don't think fans will be mad at that. And you mentioned guys like Austin Eckler, Bobby Wagner. You've seen them throughout the years because of what you've been able to do in broadcasting. You see guys like that have accomplished so much with their teams, right? And they decide to come here. From a national perspective, what does that mean to you, Gar, when you see these veterans that have been around saying, you know what, we want to go play for Dan Quinn?
That says a lot. I think it's a really good point, especially if Bobby Wagner played for Quinn in Seattle in 12 and 13 and knows him, and he's continuing his career here. And Austin Eckler, who is a player who obviously has had success, but finds not just the right football fit, but also the right personality of a locker room. And it vibes and jives with what we've experienced interviewing these players in production meetings over the years. They are guys who very much will buy into Dan's vision of a brotherhood and bringing the team together. So I think there are a lot of strategic parts. I think one that really stands out to me is a guy I mentioned before in Tyler Biotis. Obviously, a couple of the guys who were edge rushers in Dallas come over. That makes sense. Dan knows them. They know Dan. But they have somebody on the other side of the ball who went up against that defense and saw the way the defensive coordinator handled the team and set a tone with that group. And he was willing to go in free agency and be a part of that. That says a lot about Tyler, first off, because Dan knew exactly what he was trying to get in that type of leader, but it also says a lot about the way Dan has handled his team. So I think those multiple veteran signings tell you right there, Dan's respected around the league, and he was respected by the people in his building there when he was working in Dallas.
And you use the word set the tone, and I know you're very familiar with the great London Fletcher, Mr. Set the Tone. Now, you're a national guy, and I talked to London about it. My man deserves a gold jacket. He belongs in the Hall of Fame. Do you feel that way? And what do you think about London Fletcher from a national perspective? Because that's what we look at, right, when getting these guys to the Hall of Fame. It's not just what we feel about him in the DMV. The national perspective has to be there. So talk about London Fletcher and why he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
First-class individual, involved in so many tackles, dependable, showed up all the time. From where he came in from to where he ended up, he's certainly in that very, very small group. But to sit here and say, snap the finger, he's definitely a Hall of Famer without going through the rest of the linebackers is tough for me. But that's somebody who's certainly in the conversation, and that matters to me a lot. Like I fight a lot for Rodney Harrison, a guy who I work with, who was part of multiple championships in New England and was a great tone setter there. And Bill Belichick almost all the time talks about how Rodney should be in the Hall of Fame. So there are some that I've looked at and studied. London's I haven't specifically, but certainly as a person and as a guy who performed at a high level for a long time, absolutely a guy whose name should come up at the table and in the conversation on a regular basis. And I'm glad that guys don't get in just like this. It's not the Hall of Good, it's the Hall of Great, right? And if you're in the conversation for it, that there's no embarrassment that you're not picked in the first term or the second time around. I think there's a lot of opportunities to get in.
And Mike, somebody that we hope can put together a Hall of Fame career here in Washington is our rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. You got to see him up close. You got to cover him, and we know you. You study. When you do a broadcast, you study unlike anybody I've ever heard of, and I've just heard about that through the business. So with your studies, with what you've seen from that little short clip of Jaden, just seeing him warm up on that field, how are you feeling about our rookie quarterback?
Well, I lean on the experts like Chris Collinsworth, who I get to work with, who, spent a good part of the draft build up looking at all the quarterbacks. I know how high he was. But speaking of Brian Kelly about Jaden Daniels before the Heisman last year, and then watching how he performed, I was really impressed. And then the preseason sample was great. But I think also meeting him and talking to him, and you understand the things that he learned at LSU and the things he accepted. Brian Kelly is a hard grader on quarterbacks. He toughens quarterbacks up, not just by challenging them verbally if they make a mistake, but also with what he asks them to do. And Jaden Daniels comes into the league having Mike the linebacker, having changed the protection, having an understanding of what's going on, not just taking hand signals from the sideline and regurgitating a play. So I think he's got an awareness on the football field that is above where maybe some of the other quarterbacks are coming out, given the way college football is being played right now. So having come through that, he's going to be at a different level. And then talking to him and hearing the stories of how they had to change the access at the football facility at LSU because Jaden was trying to get in there at hours that people weren't normally trying to get in. His use of virtual reality to just have the goggles on and run through plays, those types of things, tells you how intentional and serious he is about the sport. And those are the traits and trademarks of the best quarterbacks we've seen. So he's got the physical, he's got the mental, he's got the approach. That doesn't mean he's going to walk out there and be great this year. But I think he's got a heck of a chance to get off to a really good start in his career. And in part, good offensive line, good receivers, good tight end, pair of good running backs. So I think he's got it all in position to succeed this year.
And Mike, you mentioned your partner, Chris Collinsworth. He called Jaden Daniels the future superstar of the NFL. Yeah. Now, you have seen a lot of superstars in your day. What does it take to be a superstar quarterback, the face of a team? Because it's more than just play on the field. There's so much that goes into that. In your experience, what makes a superstar?
I think it's a maturity. I think it's a comfort with the surroundings. It's an understanding of what the job entails. Sometimes you've got to go up there and be the team spokesperson. After a loss, credit your teammates after a win. It's not about you. A selfless leadership. You have to get along with the offensive linemen, and you've got to get along with the receivers who feel like they should be seeing the ball 2 or 3 more times a game. All of that plays into it at the foundational level, but it begins with the ability. And, can you throw? Can you run? Can you stay healthy as a runner? I think if we look back at Russell Wilson's career, when he was playing his best football, I thought he manipulated the sideline and the slide better than any quarterback. He rarely took a big hit. But I think we've seen with Michael Vick, we saw with Donovan McNabb, who was a great quarterback during his Syracuse days. So I got to see him in college and then on in the NFL. Very good quarterback with Philadelphia. We've seen it now with Russell Wilson. We saw with Cam Newton. There was no runner like Cam Newton. At some point, a quarterback's legs can't do what they do early on. So it's, while you have that weapon, use it wisely and stay healthy. Use that arm strength and understanding of throwing the football to keep yourself in position to threaten all the time. And then just be the most steady person in the building. I think all those things together are going to help make him an elite quarterback. The whole, the superstar thing, that's Patrick Mahomes, right? Lamar Jackson, some may say, is a superstar because he's won 2 MVPs. He's also only won a couple of playoff games, right? So what defines ultimately a superstar? It's hard to say. It's different for everybody. I'll take Lamar Jackson on my team anytime, right? Same with Patrick Mahomes. But sometimes how we measure the guys depends on the team around you and the success that the team has, not just your stats or your individual awards that you get. So Jade's got all the tools, patience and time. I know Washington fans are frustrated. It's been a long time since the team's been over 500 and good. But I think patience will be the thing that will pay off for this organization over the next couple of years with a great gem of a quarterback in Jaden Daniels.
And Mike, we appreciate your perspective so much. Before we let you go, I have to ask you about week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What do the Commanders need to do to find success against the Buccaneers?
This league, we always talk about quarterbacks, right? Well, let's start for 1 second on the other side of the ball. What we've seen from Tampa, we had them in a playoff game at Detroit last year. What a good defensive team they are. And it doesn't matter who's out there on a regular basis. That Tampa defense gives you problems with different looks, good secondary play. So it will not be easy. And being a first game for a rookie quarterback, you know that there's going to be a lot that Todd Bowles shows Jaden Daniels in terms of looks and blitzes and pressures and all that stuff. On the other side, offensively, Baker Mayfield had a really good season last year. And Baker told us before the playoff game, just his perspective, finding a place where he was cared about and could fit has helped him develop as a leader, and bouncing around a little bit did too. And it's funny, remember that game against the Rams where he came in last minute on a Thursday night, played a terrific game, and that was gave his career a little bit of a resurrection. Well, look what he did last year in Tampa. Very steady, not superstar numbers, but he got a team built around him. And I think that they're in the same position again this year. People don't talk about them going in. Atlanta's the flavor of the month in the NFC South because of all their moves, and they should be. They made some great moves, starting with Kirk Cousins and going all the way through, trading for Matthew Judon. I think they'll be an exciting team on offense with Bijan Robinson and what they have in London and Pitts and all that stuff. But Tampa won that division, and Tampa has built a nice team. So this is not an easy test or task. A week 1 game against a Florida team is always a challenge. There are a lot of things you got to factor into this, but a really good matchup. One of those under the radar week 1 matchups that maybe doesn't have the sizzle of Kansas City, Baltimore, or playoff rematch like Detroit and the LA Rams. But this might be one of the better games of week 1. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Washington looks like with all the starters out there.
Mike, we're so excited to see what Washington does this year, and we're excited to see what you do. We know you're going to kill it for Sunday Night Football. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to hang with us. We know you're a very busy man, and I hope you have a great season.
Our pleasure. You keep pushing for our guy Fletcher to get to the Hall of Fame. It's a great cause to continue on. We love that. And we, as we said when we left Washington to some of the folks there, Josh Harris, the new ownership group, we look forward to Washington getting better and being on Sunday Night Football, whether it's a flex this year or during the regular season down the line, because it's so nice to get back to the district and see this franchise get turned back around. So hopefully we'll see you sooner than later.
Hopefully we see you soon, Mike. I like that energy. Talk to you soon, man.
All right, man. Take care, Brian. Thank you. Have a great season.
Commanders family, our next man up is one of the best linebackers to ever do it. Over 2,000 total tackles. He's second in total tackles in the NFL. Second in solo tackles in the NFL. 39 sacks in his career. Went D3 prior to John Carroll. And it's not just what he did on the field. He's also an Emmy-nominated host of the show Players Club. 16 NFL seasons this legend did right here. And should be in the Hall of Fame very soon. Got to welcome in the next man up, London Fletcher. Brother, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I think as you were reading off my resume, I feel like I'm more proud of the Emmy-nominated Players Club.
Okay.
Because you know what? That's kind of getting me out of my element.
Yeah.
I've been an athlete my whole life, played football, whether it was in the sandlot or obviously playing in the NFL or tackle or whatever for a long period of time, but doing this television thing, that's different for us.
Yeah,
so to become Emmy nominated, that's a big feather in my cap.
Yeah, man, it's going to be Emmy winning pretty soon, man, because you put in work, not just, like I said, on the field, but you do it every time you're in this studio, man. We see how seriously you take things, man. So first things first, where does that work ethic come from?
You know what? It's just kind of innately how I am. I study other people who are doing, whatever the craft may be. So let's take it, for example, when I was playing football, I would study the other middle linebackers that I consider great, whether it was Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, Zach Thomas, guys who were doing great, even some young guys like a Bobby Wagner who's here now currently, Patrick Willis, some of the other guys. So I would study them, see what they were doing, and also study myself to see how I can improve and how I can be the best. And as it comes to this, what I'm doing now, either on the radio calling games with Bram, listening to the calls, doing the stuff in studio, going back, watching the shows and saying, okay, I need to be better here.
Yeah.
This is how the show can be better. Things like that. Just really just always striving to be the best that I possibly can be.
Even in the film room, even as an
yeah.
analyst.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, man, I got to ask because I go down that list and I miss things, right? You're a Super Bowl champion. I mentioned that you went D3. Also undrafted. 16 seasons, man. All of these things that you could just list off about you. When did you know you were going to be an NFL player? Because I don't think many D3 guys are sitting here saying, you know what, I'm about to have a 16-year career, man. When did you know?
Man, I didn't know until I made the team. Because
right, nothing was promised.
Yeah, because when you think about it, even before I made the team in the Rams, I'll go back to when I was at John Carroll Division III school. I'm playing at a Division III school, and mind you, out of high school, I only played 1 year high school football. I was a basketball guy through and through. That was my first love. Ended up getting a Division I basketball scholarship out of high school. Went to St. Francis, PA, up in Loretto, PA. I had Division I offers for football, but my heart was set on playing Division I basketball. I said, man, this face needs to be seen. I don't need to have no camera. I mean, no helmet on this face. This face needs to be seen. So, and also, Ohio State and Michigan offered me like preferred walk-on spots to play football at both of those schools. And I was just like, nah, I'm not, my heart is set on basketball. I'm definitely not going to walk on at a place if I have football offers. Right. Took the scholarship to St. Francis, PA, was there for a year and a half. It was a lot of stuff going on at home in Cleveland. Some people know my story about some of the challenges I faced from a family situation with my mom and things like that. So needed to be back closer to home. So I ended up transferring to John Carroll, a Division III school. When you go from Division I to Division III, you don't have to sit out. So I was able to play right away. I transferred in the middle of the school year. So from the winter semester to the spring semester was when I transferred. Went right to the basketball court. Then the next fall played football and basketball. And on the football field, my coaches at that time were like, man, London, I think you can play in the NFL. And I was like, man, whatever. Kind of like, well, whatever. And end up working out to where football became my passion. End up playing at a high level, getting a lot of buzz, and NFL teams started coming around. But I'm still not feeling like I'm going to definitely make it to the NFL. Still undersized. I was 5'10", like 230, 235, playing linebacker. Didn't really, it's not a lot of guys at that size playing in the NFL. So was I going to be in the safety, things like that? It wasn't until I read an article by the late, great Sam Mills, longtime linebacker in the NFL, actually a recent Hall of Famer. And he talked about Sam was 5'9", 200 maybe 20 pounds, even less than shorter and way less. And he talked about his technique and all the things. And, like, it gave me great confidence, like, man, maybe I can do this by reading that article that was in Sports Illustrated on Sam Mills. And from there, got confidence. And once I got to the Rams, it was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna give it all I got, and I end up making that team as an undrafted rookie.
And then you win a Super Bowl in year 2. But you said it. You said you didn't feel comfortable until you made the team. And I know you. You probably didn't even feel comfortable after you made the team. That puts a chip on your shoulder, right? When you have to make it and grind your way to the top, to the part you're trying to get to. When did you lose that? Did you ever feel comfortable on an NFL roster saying, you know what, this is my spot? 'Cause I mean, like, again, 16 years is a long time.
I always find some type of thing to motivate me, even when I was, fighting to make the Rams team. So I had that chip on my shoulder of, they got me 4th on the depth chart at the linebacker position when really there's only room for 3 to get reps. So I'm not getting a whole lot of reps. I'm using that as a motivating factor. When I became a starter, my second year with the Rams, ESPN the magazine had a season preview, and they was, like, hey, if London Fletcher is starting by Halloween, we'll buy you a car. So they're doubting me.
Wow.
So I'm using that magazine sat on my coffee table the entire season. Wow. Yeah. So
like
they
that,
owe me a car. I ended up being the starting middle linebacker in that Super Bowl. And, throughout my career, being snubbed for the Pro Bowls, that was motivating. Those are motivating factors. Hell, I could be coming to the stadium, a home stadium, and I don't see enough of my jerseys in the set. So
That's
I'm
how you
pissed off
feel, huh?
about
Yeah.
that. That's motivating. Like, y'all don't respect me. My own fans don't even respect me. So I always found something to motivate me, some little thing to just keep me going.
It's that mama mentality, right? Where you got those things where you
Man,
just got to find those things to keep you going.
Something to have you playing on the edge, playing with an edge. Like, I liked it. Like, there was times where I didn't speak to my coaches for a week just because of, like, for a whole week going into a game just because I was on the edge so much already.
Dang.
Yeah, it's just
Do you ever shake that, though? Like, now we're here. I go through those accolades. Second in so many categories, only to Ray Lewis, who we know is a Hall of Famer, who we knows has that bus. Do you carry that with you knowing that you should be in the Hall of Fame right now, man? Do you feel that chip still where you're like, you know what, they don't got my jersey, they don't got me in the Hall of Fame? Do you still feel that?
I do, but it's like I can't do anything about it. I can't go make any more tackles, man.
Right.
I'm almost 50 years old, so I can't go back on the field and add to my resume. I can't go get that 40th sack, things like that. But I feel a great deal of disrespect still when you look at my numbers and, you compare it to guys who are in the Hall of Fame at my position. Some of them were first ballot Hall of Famers, second ballot Hall of Famers. And my numbers are as good or better than a lot of guys that are already in the Hall of Fame. So, yeah, it's definitely I still have a chip on my shoulder about that. But the only thing is, like, I can't do anything, like, physically about it.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think London Fletcher is not in the Hall of Fame? You have the statistics. You have the resume. You have the personality, the longevity. You didn't miss games. You were a leader. You were a captain. Why isn't London Fletcher in the Hall of Fame?
I think part of it may be kind of the way I entered the NFL, being an undrafted guy. I wasn't a first-round draft pick from a Power 5 school, so that probably played a part in it. Playing in the small market team, 2 small market teams in Buffalo and St. Louis, you don't garner a lot of attention. Our offense garnered a lot of attention in St. Louis, the greatest show on turf. But defensively, you're not, people don't realize how great of a defense we had during those Super Bowl runs, those Super Bowl teams. Like, nobody knows how great we were defensively until you really look at it like, damn, these dudes,
Right, that was tough.
they balled. Once I feel like this, if I had played my entire career in Washington, my reputation would have been a lot greater. Name recognition, all those types of things. I would have made more Pro Bowls because I didn't even make a Pro Bowl until I got to Washington. But just those things, I feel definitely. I played 16 years in Washington. I'm gonna be in a lot of big games, playing on the East Coast, bigger media market. I'm first ballot with the same stats that I put up.
It's crazy, man. Even with all this being overlooked in your life, man. When I deal with you, because this is different for us. Like, we don't sit here and do this, right?
Yeah,
we
yeah.
work together, we do shows and things like that, but we don't really get to sit and
We
rap.
rib on each other.
We make jokes for being silly, but like, this show, as you know, because you said you listen, is not just about, the players and the helmet. It's about that man behind the helmet.
Right.
And getting to hear you talk and see you, not just here, but just every day, man. You're so humble and you're so cool for somebody that doesn't have to be. You're one of the best to ever do it. And even right now, you're talking about the Hall of Fame. You're like, well, I can't do nothing about it.
Yeah, it's I can't, like, there's a political element of it, I should say, or I should say campaigning piece
For sure.
that, some guys have to do when when they're done playing. I'm like, man, I don't want to do that because my accomplishments on the field should be enough.
They speak for itself.
They speak for itself. But it's, unfortunately, there's an element of that you got to deal with too.
But I think what you're doing now, right, being a host, being an analyst, showing different sides of you. You're a coach and you're a leader, man. You help these guys in this building. And I think that goes a long way in helping push that forward and helping saying, you know what, I know for a fact one day London Fletcher will be in the Hall of Fame. And again, talking about that man behind the mask, you mentioned some of those trials and tribulations back home. For those that aren't familiar with what you are talking about, do you mind talking about that a little bit, just so we have a better understanding of who the man London Fletcher is? Because clearly things had to take place for you to make you this man.
Yes. So just growing up in the inner city of Cleveland, and like inner cities in general, there's a lot of challenges you face in the home, in the neighborhood, in the schools. I wasn't unique from that standpoint. My situation was very challenging. I had an older sister, 6 years older than me, murdered when she was 18. I was 11 years old. I hadn't turned 12 yet. She was murdered. She had just turned 18. So that, mom dealing with drug addiction, probably started a couple years after that. So from the time I was about 14, learned about my mom's drug addiction. Just a lot of challenges that I faced, even trying to make it out of the neighborhood that I was in. I got trauma inside the house, trauma in the neighborhood that you're dealing with, all those types of things that, like, man, it could have been very easy for me to say, you know what, I'm good, I give up, I'm gonna take another path. But one of the things that helped me, not one of the things, the thing that I know helped me was my passion for sports and my love for, it was basketball, but I also loved playing football, but just I wanted to play in the NBA. So it was like, I got to go to college, I got to get good grades, all these types of things. So I needed to put myself in a better position to achieve the goal that I wanted, which was playing in the NBA. But and once it even shifted from playing in the NBA to just, I want to bring a smile to my mother's face. Let me make her proud. Let me graduate college. So those are the things that motivated me graduating college. And then once I got to the Rams, like, I'm not just fighting for me to make this team. I'm fighting for my family, my livelihood, our survival. So even after the first, after my first year with the Rams, I barely spent any money living in I think I was in a apartment that cost about $600 a month, fully furnished. Like, just like I'm stacking all my ends,
right.
Whatever Uncle Sam would take, I'm stacking. After that season was over, man, I bought my mom a house, got her up out of the neighborhood that we were in. Like, it's just like,
wow.
I still continue to live in an apartment. Like, I'm good. Like, let me get her better.
Is that the moment where you say, okay, I've accomplished? Because when you have these goals and you have these like markers you try to hit in life, right? It doesn't always necessarily feel like enough. Like you make it to the NFL. Well, now I want to be a starter. Oh, well, I'm a starter. Well, now I want to get to the Pro Bowl. Oh, I got a Super Bowl. Well, now I want another one. All these things, right? It's probably the same thing when your goal is to make your mother proud. Was that the moment right there when you felt like you accomplished that goal? Or was that something that was just ongoing for you your whole career?
I can remember the night I took her to the house because she hadn't seen the house prior to me buying it for her. I fully furnished it. I told her don't bring anything but her clothes.
Wow.
Like, don't bring anything but your clothes. And so I can remember taking her to the house and just her and my two younger sisters taking them to the house and just to see the amount of joy that she had. And when I took her into that house, and that was a moment for me, like, man, that's it right there. So from there, everything else was really icing on the cake.
Tell about that moment you said you're good. What does your mom say to you? What was the first thing? Because like those kind of memories, right? You never forget it. You know what you were wearing. You know what it smelled like. You know what the room looked like. What did your mom say to you?
Oh man, she was so proud, so happy. Like my mom, she's deceased now, but she had the biggest smile and just, always just a great smile. And I could just remember her just smiling from cheek to ear to ear, man. Just so happy, because she had never had anything like that, and it was a modest home. It wasn't anything lavish or anything. I wasn't making a whole lot of money,
Yeah.
but for her, just to have that experience, and it was just continue to be just so appreciative and proud, and even from there, I continue to, I want to be great. I want to become a starter and accomplish things in my career, but I always was motivated to provide a better life for them.
So you have these accomplishments, you have these dreams. Well, you hit them pretty quickly. You make the NFL, you win your Super Bowl, you have a little career, man. You hit Buffalo for a little bit, and then you come to Washington, and that's what people really care about, right?
Yeah,
That's what they're here to talk to you about Washington. You were older. Just like a Bobby Wagner, right? You were an older guy that has already established himself. So what's going through your mind when you come here to Washington for that first time?
When I came here, I was going into year 12. I was 32. I think I just turned 32. What's going through my mind? I had played for Greg Williams. Greg was my head coach, and he was the defensive coordinator here in Washington. So I was familiar with the scheme. Pretty much the entire defensive staff came from Buffalo, maybe with a couple guys that were on that staff here in Washington that wasn't in Buffalo. But Jerry Gray, who was the defensive backs coach here, he was my defensive coordinator under Greg Williams in Buffalo. Him, Steve Jackson, another guy. It's like maybe 3 or 4 guys on the defensive staff that I was familiar with. So the scheme standpoint I was comfortable with. I knew what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to be a leader on a team. They needed my leadership, but they also needed my playmaking. And it's similar, very similar to what Bobby's going through. Yeah, you want his leadership, but you also want his playmaking.
Right.
It's hard to be a leader if you ain't making plays.
For sure.
So, coming here, I signed a 5-year contract. At that point in time, you're like, okay, hopefully I'll be able to play 3 of these years out. You just don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know. But, man, I came here and I just loved it. Yeah. And I truly tried to, when I put on that burgundy and gold helmet, that burgundy and gold uniform, I knew the tradition. I knew the history. I grew up loving football.
Yeah.
So I can remember the Halls. I can remember John Riggins. I can remember Dale Green, Art Monk, some of the other greats that played in the organization, Coach Gibbs. And Coach Gibbs was my head coach. Coach Gibbs, he was the one who called me at 12:01 in the morning when free agency started. I pick up the phone, and it's Coach Gibbs. I'm like, hello. London, this is Coach Gibbs with the Washington Redskins. I'm like, man.
Let's go.
Hey, London, I want you to come to Washington. All right, Coach, let's make it happen. So I knew the history. I knew the tradition. I knew what it meant to represent the guys who played before me, represent the current players, but then also leave a legacy myself. So when I stepped on that field, man, I was representing all those things. I knew right at that time Washington had a reputation signing older, bigger name free agents and paying them a bunch of money, and they not pan out.
Right.
That wasn't going to be me. Actually, I think, people may have thought, okay, here's another one on signing. Like, no, y'all don't know me. Y'all don't know me. Y'all don't know what I'm about. Like, if anything, y'all getting a bargain.
Another one of those motivation markers that said, you know what, I'm going to show y'all what I'm about here. So real quick, while we're talking about you signing, because got you a little bag when you signed here in Washington, is it true that Fred Smoot had something to do with your story signing? I've heard this before. Fred, y'all always joking around. I never know it's true.
So Fred, no, it's true. It's true from the standpoint. Fred and I both came. So Fred got drafted by Washington, went to Minnesota for a couple seasons. They got rid of him. Then Washington brought him back, and we were on our visits together the same day, and we were riding down in a limo from the park down to a Wizards game, and by the time we left the park, we were still kind of a ways away from a contractual demand
right.
standpoint.
You had some things you needed.
Yeah, so by the time we hit the I think it was the Verizon Center back then, maybe it's MCI. By the time we got there, the deal was sealed. They had met my contractual demands. But Fred was in the limo ride, doing.
Did Fred get his contract at that time too?
I think he needed a little bit. They had to take care of me first. I
were
was
the
that priority.
Dude, I'm just trying to imagine like you and a younger Fred Smoot in a limo. Had you met Fred yet?
No, no.
So what was
It wasn't just us in the car. It was Fred and I, a couple coaches, maybe a couple other current players, or players who were on the team at that point in time. So Fred gonna always be Fred.
Well, to say I was wondering was he on his best behavior?
Be loud as hell. He was on Fred behavior. That's just him. So he was being him, doing what he does. And so I think they end up maybe Fred's deal got done the next day after they had to kind of recover from my deal. They
had to see what was left.
Yeah. Let's see what we can throw your way.
It's so funny because we could laugh, right? Because we know Fred, we know Tanner, we know all these guys because they stuck around. Yeah. And to me, that is what is most impressive to me about Washington and the Legends of all the different places I've been is the way that the players have stuck with the organization. Even though this wasn't your first organization, even though Fred had other organizations, even though Tanner started somewhere else, all of you guys decided to make Washington home. Why was that?
Man, it's beautiful here. It's just the amount of love we get in the community. Like, I can go into D.C., man. I love going to the city. People just give you love, and then they don't overwhelm. They don't invade your personal space. But like, man, London, what's up, man? Man, you're my favorite. Or just, man, I always love the way you play. Just like it's love here. Yeah. It's just different, man. It's Chocolate City. It's just you got the DMV, like you can go to the three municipalities and just receive that type of love, and it's just something about all the great food here, the football time. I can't wait till we really get going like we need to be going. Like, man, to have those burgundy and gold faithful at those games, man. Just I wish and I appreciate what I accomplished in Buffalo and also St. Louis, and a lot of great relationships and winning the Super Bowl in St. Louis. But, man, my time here was special, and the way they embraced me, especially the fan base, I'm forever grateful.
You talk about those good old days. I can see the twinkle in your eye when you talk about it. And winning football and what it means to this fan base to be winning. How close do you think we are to getting back to that promised land, getting back into the playoffs, getting back to being Super Bowl contenders, those things that you remember doing as a player here in Washington?
When I look at the team, I see a product that we'll be extremely proud of. That's what you want to be from a fan, from a guy who supports the team, somebody who is really a Washington Commanders fan. You want to be proud of the product, win or lose. I see what Dan Quinn is, the environment that he's doing, the culture, the right type of culture. Everybody has a culture, but his is the right type of culture. I can see the way Adam Peters is going about building the team. I can see the way Mr. Harris and the ownership group is going about doing things and trying to improve the facilities both here at the practice facility and also at the stadium, just trying to do the things the right way and build something that's sustainable, where you want a product that's a team that's competing year in and year out. And that takes a little bit of a time. But for me, it would not surprise me if 3 years down the road, we're looking at a consistent, highly competitive team that's competing for division championships, NFC conference championships, and Super Bowls. And that's not saying, hey, we're not going to win this year. But I'm just saying in terms of like when you've built everything up the way you want it to be, your roster's the way you want it to be. You got the right infrastructure in place to really have a sustainable winning culture and winning team. It's definitely on that right trajectory.
And like you're saying, with anything, it takes time, right? And now you have on a different hat, right? We knew you were the leader. We knew you were the legend in the locker room, but now you're wearing the analyst hat. But you're still in the building. You still see guys like Bobby Wagner walking around. You still see Frankie Louvu's walking around. How do you help these guys, and how do you help pay it forward for Washington when you talk to these guys and interact with them?
Yeah, well, it's crazy because Bobby and I, we had a relationship even before he came here. He had reached out to me when he was playing with the Seahawks, just wanted to pick my brain and kind of see, what I did, how he can, maybe add a few things to his game and things like that. So him being a student of the game and a guy who respected, guys who had paved the way before him, seeing those guys, I'm always available if they, want to have conversation. We want to talk ball. I'll talk ball all day long.
Yeah, you will.
I'm conscious. I'm not their coach, so, I'm not trying to coach these guys. But if they have some questions about, it could be on the field, off the field, I'm, definitely willing to give that type of kind of help or whatever. Bobby and I, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about just maintenance, how we were able to treat our body, things I did, and he was sharing with me some of the things that he does from a maintenance standpoint. I'm like, man, dang, I wish I had added that element to my repertoire back then. So just kind of bouncing things off each other and how we do our routine in terms of recovery and getting ready for games.
That's an interesting thought because a guy like Bobby, right? I mean, there's so many parallels to you guys. Like, he's also coming in with a lot of former coaches and former coordinators. But the game's changed a lot. The game has changed so much. So from your vantage point, because you're still very close, right? You're still at practice, still on the field. How have you seen the linebacker position change and grow? And is it like almost like a proud dad moment seeing guys like Bobby who basically are just like following your path?
Yeah, when you look at the game the way it is now, I say this as a linebacker, whether you're a middle linebacker or outside linebacker, you have to evolve. You had to evolve. You had to become more athletic. Defending the pass is at a premium. You look at the kids now; they're a lot smaller from the standpoint. Like when I initially came into the league, I was, I think, 242 pounds. I was considered kind of on a smaller side from a weight standpoint. You 250, 255, even 260. Now you got guys, even linebackers, that are in the 220s, like
yes.
in the low 230s, because they want to be able to run a lot faster, be more fluid. There's less linebackers on the field. A lot of times now teams are deploying more personnel groupings where there are only two linebackers on the field at a time. Sometimes some teams in certain packages may only have one linebacker on the field. And now I'm not even talking about on a third down situation. This is just, we want as much speed as possible, and we want much guys that can cover as possible, as many guys that can cover as possible. So that evolution of the game, you had to kind of embrace as a linebacker. So for Bobby to be able to do it when he came into the league, I think 2012 was his first year. There was still a lot of two-back offensive teams weren't having fullbacks, and still emphasis on running the football to where we are now. And it's some teams, they're three wide receivers the whole entire game.
Yep.
So just being able to evolve and embrace that change and continue to be impactful and a playmaker, that says a lot about his game. And also Frankie as well, because, versatility in your ball and in your game, it just helps you.
It's dope to see this, young up-and-coming linebackers come up. Even Bobby, older guy, but still somebody that, is playing in a different league than what you played in.
Right.
And not only are you giving back as a veteran, as a leader, as an analyst, you're also giving back to the next generation, because the most important things you are, husband and a father. Yes. And your boy's playing, man. You get to coach him. You've got to help mentor him and groom him. He's a wide receiver. He's not a linebacker, but he got quick feet like his pops, right? Because you got to have quick feet.
I had a little quickness, man.
How has that been, man? How has it been putting on that father hat and seeing your son excel in a sport that's giving you so much?
I'm cognizant of knowing when to be dad and when to be coach, because I coach him.
Yeah.
In the summertime, he plays on the 7-on-7 team that I coach. So I'm cognizant of just knowing, hey, when I need to be dad. I actually coached him in middle school on tackle, and he was a running back. I was coaching running backs too, and he was running back and wide receiver, so I coached him there. But just knowing when it's time to be dad, when it's time to be a coach, I love it, man. It's just it's a thrill to be able to see him kind of growing into the game, and he loves it. He's passionate about it. Him playing wide receiver, I kind of find myself, I kind of have drifted toward the offensive side from a thinking standpoint.
Wow.
Now. I'll see a pass interference. Before I'd be like, that wasn't no PI. Now I'm like, man, that's a pass. That's a PI, man.
Oh, you changed up.
That's a PI. As a matter of fact, we went to Virginia Tech's camp. My son didn't go with me, but I took some other kids there. And so Coach Fry, Coach Pride, the head coach at Virginia Tech, he was like, I said something about a PI. He's like, what? London, you a defensive guy. What are you talking about? I was like, but man, I love it. Just loving him go through his journey. And I help him along the way. I'm always constantly, when it's time to, hey, you can do this a little bit better, or I love the way you did this. Just giving him, nuggets here and there, especially from a defensive perspective where if you do this to a defensive guy, you give him the stem. I have to kind of respond to a certain movements that you give. So trying to give him that perspective to help his game.
Is he at the age where he understands who his father is? Like who he really knows who his dad is and the man he was on that field?
My son is a hater, man.
All sons are haters. I don't get it.
He's a straight hater. He's talking about, Dad, you suck. Boy, please. But you better look around this house. These ain't no participation trophies. You'll this stuff, this all this in here was earned.
You got your skills.
Yeah,
for me.
This sofa and this bed you sleeping on, that was earned, not given. That car you drive, that was earned. Boy, you better Google me.
The kids just really don't understand.
Yeah,
they see it and they've been in it through every day. Like it's not really special to them anymore. But I'm sure I gotta imagine at his age, especially playing on the level he's playing at, kids probably tell him all the time, like, "Oh man, do you know who your dad is?"
It's funny because there's times where we might be out and somebody I have no idea, maybe people I don't even know may come up to me and be like, "Oh man," like, "Dude, your father was a dog, man." He'd be looking at it like, "Man, whatever." Like, so I'm like, yeah, and I'll be like, "Yeah, you hear him? You heard what he said, a dog." Like,
man, that is so cool because one day your son could be doing that with his son, man, and it's so cool to pay that forward. And London, I can sit and talk to you all day, man. This has been a lot of fun, but we got to talk about Tampa. Yes. We got to talk about Tampa Bay. We're gonna be out there. You're gonna be out there doing a radio broadcast. I'll be doing the pregame and postgame show. What do you expect to see Week 1 from Tampa, right? We know we have to tailor expectations. We know there's so many new things going on. But what does the captain expect to see Week 1?
Well, I'll tell you this. First and foremost, Tampa's an outstanding football team, kind of very under the radar team. They won their division last year, actually 3 straight years in a row. They won a playoff game last year, had Detroit on the ropes in the second round of the playoffs. So they're a really good football team, well coached. It's not going to be an easy game. We got to come in there ready for a battle. The temperature, what's that heat going to be like playing in Tampa? Because there is a big difference between being up here in D.C. and then going down there in Florida. So
for sure,
that element of it, we'll have to make sure we're hydrated and ready to deal with that. But from a standpoint of, X's and O's, we have an advantage from the standpoint they don't know what our offense is going to truly look like. There's a new system with new players doing it under Cliff Kingsbury. He has, they'll look at Arizona stuff, but there's also the Anthony Lynn, element. What's his imprint going to be as the run game coordinator? What's Brian Johnson going to be? And what's his imprint going to be as the pass game coordinator? How are they going to mesh this to be the Washington Commanders offense, the personnel and the players that we have? And then how, Jaden, how much are they going to put on his plate, and how much is he going to run? The RPOs and things like that, the quarterback runs, design runs. So that element defensively, they haven't seen our starting defense at all.
No,
they
at all.
They haven't played in the preseason, so it's going to be a highly competitive game. Tampa has some weapons. That Mike Evans, he's a bad boy.
Yeah.
Going to have to deal with him. They got 2 receivers that we'll have to deal with. Rashad White, running back, he's a beast too. So we'll have our work cut out for us. But I know for a fact Dan Quinn will have these guys ready to go out there and perform at a high level. And let's see where the chips fall.
And you talk about those starters on defense. Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne. Those are some dogs. You've been that middle linebacker behind some monsters up front. How important are they to the success of this team and this defense?
They're extremely important. I think just when you look at our 2 best players, you got 2 defensive tackle guys. Both have been to the Pro Bowl, still young, and the impact they can have on a game because of the positions they play. They're in the middle of the defense. Especially when you look at this game against Baker Mayfield, who's a shorter quarterback, pressure in his face is going to be key. And getting that interior pass rush is going to be key. Those guys, I think they're primed to have outstanding seasons. Both of them. I mean, we had Jonathan on the Players Club last week, and man, he looks in great shape. He's ready to go. Daron, he's still always ready to rock and roll. So I can't wait to see those guys get it going. Those guys will set the tone for this defense. The strength of our defense, if you look at it, is the interior, starting with those two guys. Then you go to Bobby and Frankie, and then the safeties. The strength of this defense is in the middle.
In London, I'm glad you used the phrase "set the tone." Because to end the show, right, you are Mr. Set the Tone, and you told me beforehand that if you going to set the tone, I got to pay you, and I don't got no money. So what I'm going to do is, because we got a home game, and that home game's against a division rival in the New York Giants. That's coming up. Need you to look at that ISO camera right there and talk to the fans and how they can set the tone for our Washington Commanders for our first home game against the New York Giants.
Burgundy and Gold faithful. You know it. We need it. We need that energy from you. We're going against the hated division rival, the New York Giants, the G-Men as they like to call themselves. This is Commanders country. Let's let them know. Bring it. Burgundy and Gold, let's rock and roll.
Man, listen, there's nothing else I need to say. I got goosebumps. I'm ready to go run a 40 and play some football. Mr. London Fletcher, man, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for being so candid with us and open with us, man. It's been a joy to work with you, man, and watch you grow as a broadcaster and an analyst, man. I see the work you put in, man. It's very impressive to see you and get to work with you every day, brother.
I appreciate it, but you going to get that invoice.
Commanders family, while I try to work more to make money to be able to afford to pay London Fletcher his invoice, this is Next Man Up. I am your host, Brian Colbert Jr., here with the legend, one of the best to ever do it, in future Hall of Famer. That's right. Big Fletch, London Fletcher. Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate it.
See y'all next Friday, Commanders family.
Let me hear you say, hey! Scratch is so nice.